Good morning, everybody. Let me flow like a river. You know, let me grow like Shiva. Let me destroy like a river. Let me destroy like Shiva. Let me create like water. Let me create like the universe. This is why we can't fit in. Another reason why we can't fit in is imagine you see someone walking in the forest, bending down to the ground, taking his or her hands full of soil, and then walking on doing a breathing exercise and sending a prayer in the process. Then, after some time, dropping the dirt and having quote unquote dirty hands from then on, but it's not dirt, it's soil, it's earth, okay? And then continuing to walking with these hands to stop at the next river and washing his or her hands there. 95% of grown-up people would see this as a very weird behavior. Children wouldn't. Children do the same things when they play. They intuitively connect with the elements. Earth, soil, water attracts children magically. Also fire. Anything, all the elements, and they engage with that. But fire is dangerous. This is why we need to control our own fire as well. We need to be dangerous, yes, but we need to learn to control it, because only the fire that is controlled is dangerous. An uncontrolled fire is not dangerous. Think about that. Yeah, I just wanted to flow. This is why I'm speaking about things that are not planned, right? I never wanted to talk about a fire. I wanted to tell you why we can't fit in, right? But that's okay, we're fitting in by not fitting in. When we're living authentic, when we're doing our thing, when we find in our space, it will make us energetic individuals that when we're going outside into the world, people will want to connect to us. And now I'm talking to the man, to the people out there, to the persons out there that identify themselves as a man. See, you got it inside yourself. It's all within you. The abundance, the resourcefulness, the ability is inside yourself. Okay? Yeah. And people who feel triggered by anything or try to give in you hell or whatever they do, that's not you. That's their own created hell and they project it on you. They want you to feel the same pain they have because they might not be the same as you. They might not have that blessing that you are not even aware of. Okay? Yeah, and the women will sense your energy. They sense what you have inside. I mean this literally and also on any other level you could think of. And they might even be triggered and confused why they feel something, and they are programmed a lot. Some people, some persons are programmed and get confused when their experience is contradicting the program. I'm not gonna say more than that. And if this was too much for you and triggered you already, it's your hell, it's not mine. I don't create this, okay? I don't create that hell, that pain, that anger, that emotion. I'm here to empower people for nothing else, okay? Mm. Yeah, we also have powers, and I'm not talking to only men anymore. I'm talking to every person out there. We have powers to create our past and our future through the present, through the present moment. We can reshape our past. We understand life retrospectively. That is why it is important to do introspection, self-reflection. And there is a lot of people who can do this because they have this primitive defensive mechanism called false self, grandiose self-image. And this image lets them live in a delusion and makes it unable for them to understand reality and potential mistakes they made, or a person that is already grandiose can't be improved. And this is why they are desperately fighting more and more brutal to defend this shared fantasy and false self-image, and their world in return, the reality, turns darker and darker, and it gets more grim and hostile, and it's basically hell. But this is a self-created hell. It has nothing to do with people from the outside. Anyway, the self-reflection is important, and based on that, we can give meaning to our life and our suffering. Because when we're looking back, we see the mistakes we did. I have to make a small interjection here. Do not live in the past. I'm not saying live in the past, but we have to devote some of our time, a percentage of our time, to understand past events, also to clear memories, because we are not what they say we are. We are not what our ancestors were. We are not what our father and mother was. We are not what any program told us to be. We are something completely new. We are unknown. And Nietzsche said, you have to be completely unaware and not to know who you are to become who you are. Okay? This is also where I say an archetype will choose you, not you choose the archetype. It's something that will take over when you step in with your full potential into the unknown. Now, you need to analyze your past, and things will make sense the more education and experience you have. So you will have gone through periods of confusion and you had no time to decipher and to puzzle. You were puzzled, so you could not put the puzzle parts together. But when you have time in isolation and privacy and educate yourself, based on that, you will reshape your past. So be careful what kind of beliefs you create, what kind of education you take, what kind of philosophy you have, because it will shape your past and your future. So if you have the wrong ideology, the wrong belief, the wrong philosophy, a philosophy that is fighting life, if you have to overanalyze everything, you are serving the death, okay? If you want to understand why the frog is living so beautifully, why he's created so beautifully, you will end up cutting it off, and then you will see, oh, this is this tissue, this is this tissue, it looks like this inside, but then it's dead. So we also have to have a lot of respect of certain tricks of life: joy, motivation, energy, affirmation, everything that propels you forward. Why should you analyze it further? This is the divine nature you should not touch. That's a sacred temple. That's that innermost holy sacred place, the secret place inside yourself. Let this just work for you. And based on the education that we get, we can dissolve traumatic experiences that were overwhelming in the moment we made them and we had no time to solve them. You know, one of the biggest red flags: you are living with people with strong narcissistic or psychopathic traits, and you can insert any other term if you want, of people that are not good for you, is the confusion you have in the moment they gaslight you. And it all makes sense the more you learn about childhood trauma and the reactions to it, why they do what they do. But in the moment when you're naive, you try to understand them based on yourself, and this is not possible. Because you're an empathetic person that has the best interest in heart, and spreading your empathy and almost your whole energy, you spread it to everybody. And you need to learn that this can be not only to your disadvantage, but it could lead to your crucifixion, okay? And this is why we need to fire also and integrate that part, that we need to insist on our boundaries and not be confused anymore when they come and gaslight us, okay? So the people I talked about, the red flag is that they do not accept boundaries, but they will present it as if it is the best for you what they are doing. And it can begin with a simple, small event far back in your past. When, let's say, you have a private sphere, you have a private thing, something that nobody should enter or is allowed to enter in unwritten law, but they don't accept, they don't see, they don't accept these boundaries. But for you, you have some data on your computer, you are writing poems, and you have hundreds of pages with just free-flowing texts of yourself. And without you knowing, they enter this data and print it and manipulate it, and then they will give it to you as a present to your birthday. This is a great example for a gaslighting, because deep inside yourself you will feel hurt and confused because somebody just completely disrespected all boundaries and has taken from the source, from your source, from your creative source, from something that nobody should see, and you decide what you publish and what not. And they take it all and print it as if that was a present for you, because you're not able to do this. You're not able to take this and print it. Oh, thank you that you did that for me. And then they present it as a present. And then it looks like they want to do something good for you. And because you're an empath, you'll think, okay, they have a good intention. Let me ignore the red flag. And it will end after you ignore the red flag, and it will end with that they bring a psychopath in the house where you're living with your children and commit crimes. And this is just the same thing. They are disrespecting your private sphere, and they will say that this is the best for you, for everybody. They will present it as a present again. And this is, and between the first red flag and the last, there are 1,000 more in between. And this is when you ignore it, but retrospectively, you can understand it. You can make sense of it. You understand the childhood traumas they went through, the entitlement, the grandiose self, that, and this is also, this is a reason why we need to understand that we also can create our future. And in the future, when we meet somebody new, we keep them in a healthy distance, in a hygienic distance. We follow now our intuition. And we will reject people who come too close too quick. And when they react in any way triggered or aggressive by this, they are not the right people for you. People need to respect your boundaries, appreciate your boundaries. And and when people will immediately let them parent you, this is a big red flag. You don't want to parent grown-up people when they immediately come too close. When you want to parent someone, get children. You don't even need to create them your own. There is a lot of children who don't have the right parents out there. So the future is unknown. You are unknown. You have the power in the present moment to change your past, because your past was confusing. Your past was maybe a romantic shared fantasy, a grandiose shared fantasy, but it was fake. You can make sense of it. You can be brutally honest with your past and learn from the mistakes. But the future is unknown. You are unknown because you delete the memories of what everybody made you believe who you are. And the future will be shaped by the potential and frequency that you have now, and by the experiments, the great experiments you do. You do unknown things. You don't know what's going to happen. If you meet someone Don't treat them as the same way as before. Of course you don't. Which means you experiment. Your life experiment. You see, you keep them in a distance. You confront them with rejection, but not in a loving way, and just let it flow like a river. You know what I'm saying? And this is the unknown. The unknown. You need to be ready to face the unknown. Bro, if you have children, you always need to show your children loving kindness. But there is two poles. One is rejection and one is idealization. And both are terrible mistakes. Never give your child the feeling that you reject the child. But also never idealize the child. I give you an example. When you cook for the children, it can be, I can't force my kids to eat salad and chickpea curry all day. So I cook for them something different. But I will not cook for each child something very special. It will end up, this would be idealizing. They would feel like gods because they can determine what I do for them. And if it don't taste the way they expected it, I will modify it. And then they eat one bite and say, okay, I'm full. And this would mean they would devalue what I do. And, this is not the way to go. But you cook with love for them one meal that is healthy and what is good for them and what is tasty. You know this, but you don't let them determine everything. You just cook for them with love one meal. And they will eat this, okay? So this is something between rejection and idealization. Idealization would mean you cook for each one something different, and then you modify it, and you do everything, and you don't even come to eat yourself because you're just idealizing your children. And this is terrible. This gets out of control. This destroys your children's character. They get grandiose and self-absorbed. But you also don't reject them, which would mean now you idealize them first, and then you get angry and you say, okay, now you only get water and bread. Then the children would feel that they are not loved anymore. And they would feel like your love is conditional. Because if they are good children, you idealize them. But if they are bad children, you reject them. This destroys your children. Loving kindness all the time. Always. Don't be in this split way. Narcissists split. They are split inside. And you don't want to split your children, which means it's not black and white, good or bad. It's not golden child, scapegoat. It's no. You love all the children the same way. You cook for them all the same way. You never reject them, you never idealize them. You show them that you love them all the time, you accompany them all the time. But you also show them the boundaries of what would be idealization, of what is your personal interest. Now you want to cook for yourself and eat yourself too, all at the same time with them together. So there's boundaries. There is love and being close, but there's also a distance. You need to help them to individuate from you too, to separate themselves from you over time, to become strong individuals. Otherwise, at some point, you can be the helicopter parent as much as you want. At some point, they go out into the world and then they will be cast out of that heaven of idealization and they will hit rock bottom very quickly. In the best case, you teach them how to cook for themselves, but also teach them to appreciate what others cook for them, whatever it is. So they are strong and ready for the world, and not idealized or rejected. They know there is loving kindness, but they know their place in the world, and they know they can rely on their own abilities and discernment. Have a great Sunday.